So this is a teen, adult, and parent panel. So Josette, Akaya, you want to take it from here?
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Josette, and I'm going to be introducing our first panel. Our 6 speakers, Benni Storey, Dougie Storey, Ava Zamborski, Reuben Schuff, Jeanette Gordon, and Mark O'Malia will be talking about advice they give to kids who stutter, parents, and their own younger selves. Our first 3 speakers are frequent attendees of the virtual teen groups that Akaya, David, and I have been organizing, and they will be talking a little bit about their experiences in the groups today. And so before we begin our panel, I'd like to turn it over to Akaya to share a little bit about our teen groups.
Hi, everybody. My name is Akaya. I'm one of the main facilitators of the teen group. So while Josette and David are more on overseeing things, I'm the main one interacting with the teens. My main purpose for starting this group is for teens to have a space where they can connect with other teens who stutter. While I was in my earlier teens, I did not have a space where I could go to and connect with other peers my age. So I felt that starting the teen group was very necessary. So this project has started last summer, and our first group was back in August. So we've been running the groups for about 6 months. We have teens attending from all over the US and some out of the country. We have had teens share challenges that they're going through, but we also have teens that share the triumphs. I feel like over the past few months, we all became such a big family, and whenever a teen reaches a victory, we all cheer on. So with that being said, I would like to turn it back to Josette to introduce the panelists.
Oh, great. Thank you, Akaya. So I would now like to introduce our first panelist, Benni.
Hello.
Yeah. I I I I I you can go ahead.
All right, so okay. So first, I would like to start off with some advice for kids and teens who stutter. So first of all, and possibly most importantly, don't give up. So please know that as always someone who cares about what you want to stay, and that what you say matters. So you should, if you have something to say, try your best to say it, and guaranteed it will impact someone's life, no matter how long it takes. So then, another piece of advice here: try your best to avoid hiding your stutter. So hiding your stutter can just make it more difficult to eventually be comfortable with it, because the longer you hide it, the harder it'll be to accept it if and when you realize that you don't have to hide your stutter, that it's not a bad thing, but that it's a thing that makes you different from the other 7.8 trillion human beings in the world. So for my advice to teens, number one, don't hide your stuttering, and number to don't give up. Okay, so then I also have some advice for parents here. So if you are a parent of a kid or a teen who has a stutter, try your best to follow these tips if you think these would help your kid with being okay with their stutter. So, tip number one, be patient. Since imagine if you stuttered and if you were being interrupted because the person you're talking to doesn't know that this helps. So imagine if you're a kid in this situation and you just want to get your thoughts out and someone else isn't displaying the patience to listen. That would be really frustrating, right? So, a tip for parents of stutterers: be patient when your kid is talking. So, one potential challenge in this area is when you're in the car, because if you're in the car and your kid is in the back seat and they're stuttering, sometimes it can make it hard to figure out if they're stuttering and knows that the sound is coming out or if they're not talking. So try to determine this in a normal setting. You might look at them and look for facial clues of what's happening, except when you're in the car. Well, if you're driving anyway, you can actually look through that because you have your eyes off the road when they're talking. You could fall off the road and get hurt or die, and I don't think anyone here wants that. So if you're in the car, just be patient enough to let them tell you what is happening, and then if they tell you that it's a block, which for those of you who don't know, it's type of stuttering which causes no sound to come out, even though talking is happening. There's a stop in air. Still, like, if I'm saying my name with a block, at the start of it'd just be which is not really helpful for purposes of differentiating between stuttering and not talking when you can't look at them. So when you're in the car, just let them know that, like, you don't know what's happening, and let them tell you, so then no one falls off the road and dies when you're trying to drive somewhere, because that doesn't sound fun. So yeah, then another piece of advice for parents would be to don't give your kids quote unquote unnecessary help. So what I mean by that is, if they don't need help, don't help them, since the help that you think might be helpful might not be still helpful for them. So, for example, if you try to help by saying, be sure to use your strategies, that might just lead to them feeling like they've been interrupted and that they're being told how to handle this stuttering when really they can handle it themselves oftentimes. So things like that, which I've actually experienced with speech therapists at school, since they're trying to help how they can, except sometimes we need to, as people who stutter, let them know that that isn't helpful. So if you have done this in the past and it has made the situation worse, that is probably why. So then lastly, some advice would be to, if you know of these teen groups and other stuttering events, sign your kids up for them if they think it'd be interesting, since for the first probably 3 years of my stuttering, I didn't know anyone outside of my family that I didn't that stuttered. So these teen groups and the friends conferences and some other similar events have really helped me to connect with other people who stutter and to have a safe place for stuttering openly, so that might help your kid with some similar stuttering related things.
Hey, Benny?
Yeah.
I got to interrupt. I think we have just found our next keynote speaker for the convention, because you have the best advice to kids, teens, parents. I'm thinking we're not using you to your utmost here on a panel. You need to have the whole floor. So make sure you talk to me before July, but we got to let the next person talk.
Yeah.
You were great.
Cool, thanks.
Also, Awesome job, Benny. And actually, and actually, and actually, speaking of your family, now we have Dougie up next.
Yeah, I'm his brother. So hi. First I want to give a little bit of advice. I have gotten asked things like, what advice would you give to other people around your age who stutter? And I would say, one, do not let your stuttering stop you from being yourself. Stuttering can make people feel like they need to hide from the world or protect themselves from people who might not accept their stutter, but really they don't. Talking about your stuttering can help you a lot, and spreading awareness about stuttering helps your stuttering journey for yourself and for a lot of other people who might also be facing some similar challenges. So, second, I would say that as a person who stutters, I would highly recommend that just know that it will always get better. No matter how severe your stutter may feel, there are always
Is it sound?
We can't hear you anymore, Dougie.
Thank you, Joe.
You're on mute.
I don't think I am on mute.
Now you're good. Now you're good.
Okay, so as far as advice for a parent of a stutterer, I would recommend that you always be patient and try to be as supportive as possible. If you are worried or unsure about your kid's stutter, you can always reach out to therapy or support groups, like I mentioned before. And then, as far as any speech therapists who aren't used to dealing with a stutter, I would highly recommend that you always just ask the stutterer what they need most, because with stuttering there are just so many different forms of stuttering that it's really hard to help everyone in the exact same way, and what might work for one person probably won't work for the next person. So I would say for any speech therapists, always be willing to customize certain ways of handling stutters, from stutterer to stutterer. I would just highly recommend always being flexible and willing to learn more about stuttering, because it is different with everybody, and just being willing to be open to ideas. So speaking of the support groups and the therapy, like I mentioned before, I would highly recommend that you join groups like these to help you accept your stutter and understand other points of view on stuttering. I remember the first time I was in a group like this. It was in person a few years ago at a friend's conference, and I was partially scared and just unsure of what to do because there were other people who stuttered, and apart from my brother at the time, I had never met anybody with a stutter. So that was a great experience for me. Also, I would recommend that you try speech therapy. It doesn't work for everyone, but there's a good chance that it could work for you. Speech therapy and support groups can be hard when you're talking about stuttering, which can obviously be a pretty personal topic and can be a bit sensitive, but it does help and does get easier each time you try to talk about it. I think exposing yourself to certain situations like that can always help. So now I just want to talk about my experience with stuttering. I started stuttering when I was a little kid. No one knew what to do, and some people around me seemed pretty scared, but I really didn't notice it or care because I was 4 years old and I was just like, I'm a 4-year-old. I don't know what's happening. I don't really care. So I didn't really know what was happening or care what was happening. But so I remember specifically I was playing in the snow, and it was super cold, and because we lived in Minnesota, it was it snows a lot there, so 3 feet was definitely to be expected of snow. So I was outside and it was snowing, and we were all outside in the snow. So I stepped in the snow, my shoe came off, and I went inside. So when I was about to come back outside, I remember that my family was making calls to the hospital, asking what was going on, and we were all trying to kind of figure it out. And I was really confused because I didn't really notice anything wrong with what was happening. It was just in the background for me at this point, because I was 4 years old and had other things to worry about. So we went to the hospital later that night, and as me and my mom, who was half convinced that I was dying at this point, went in to that hospital. I remember the doctor basically gave us a look instantly that was like, everything's fine. So we were a little bit relieved once we, figured out I didn't have some sort of a brain tumor, but we were still a little bit confused about my stutter and how to move forward with it, and what our next steps should be. So a few years later, we moved out to Washington, where we found a speech therapist, and we've seen that speech therapist ever since we moved, and that's helped a lot. and after finding a lot of these support groups, it's helped a ton. So I think overall, my stuttering journey has been a fairly rocky one, but it's gotten smoother as time goes on. So yeah, to wrap up here, I think my main points are just if you are a kid or teen who's stuttering, never let it stop you from being who you are and who you want to be. Know that it will get better no matter how hard it may seem in the moment. Try to utilize certain therapies and support groups, and always know that it can get easier if you put enough work into managing your stutter, and never be afraid to spread awareness about it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. Our next speaker is Ava.
Hello. So my name is Ava Zamboyski, and I would firstly like to talk about some things that people say or assume about people who stutter. Yes, okay, please don't ask that does. I know what I want to say, and I know that I know where I'm trying to go with it, but just give me some of the time. If I choose not to talk, it's usually because I'm having a kind of stuttery day, and then I would choose not to talk. So please respect that. Trying to talk to me isn't helpful unless I ask. Treat me as you treat everyone else. I'm still human. I just sometimes have a block or something like that. Secondly, I would kind of like to talk about my story with stuttering plus advice to my younger self and parents. So when I was in kindergarten and someone told me that I had a stutter, I didn't think anything of it just because I was a young kid, actually starting school, and I was like, okay, that's nothing to worry about. And I kind of changed my opinion in second grade when I did my first show. I thought doing the show would be something fun to put my interest in and something to do in my free time and to make friends. And then I realized I really couldn't say my line without adding a filler word and stuff like that. And I thought of myself as a failure and someone who couldn't do anything that I wanted to. And having that mindset as someone who is young and who is still trying to learn where to belong, what activities to do and stuff like that, my speech therapist, like in school, she didn't help at all. She made me count, like with one of those like things where you like tap a button and like goes up a number, and count how many times I stuttered. And then she told my fourth grade teacher that every time I had a presentation, so I had to read something, she would go in the back of the classroom and start doing like weird hand motions, like to like breathe, calm down, and like all of those words we hear almost every day of our lives. And those things, I thought more of myself as someone who couldn't do my dreams in life, and someone who would have to pick a job or something where talking wasn't an option, or like I didn't have to talk that much. And then going into middle school, everything kind of changed. Like fourth, fifth, and like sixth grade and on, my options changed because I found support group which like openly stutter, and stuttering's okay, and we shouldn't be ashamed of it, and more just like embrace it, and anyone who stutters can do anything. And that helped me realize that I could do things I loved. And then my younger self, like my second, third, and like kindergarten self, saw me being on a panel, talking in front of 100 people, doing shows almost every year in front of like 100, 300 people, and just like openly stuttering, talking to friends, picking my mom telling me I could be a lawyer just because I'm so good at like arguing and stuff, and like looking at jobs and like activities where talking is something big in that. I feel like my younger self would be like, wow, and just like amazed how much finding a support group that actually knows a lot about stuttering and knows that we have our tools, but we don't have to use them if we're not confident or comfortable in that situation. Because I feel like talking to speech therapists and them telling me to do a strategy in this situation, thinking about that makes me more stressed, and doing that, I can't always do that in like that situation just because it's something else to think about. And I feel like also parents, and like my parents are very supportive and just like give me like any like tools and just like let me open stutter. But like parents have to know that some days our speech is like it is very bumpy, as some people might call it, but also it could be like those, or there could be like how I'm speaking right now, like fine for me, but in someone else's eyes, it could be I'm like there's something wrong with me or something like that. And realizing that people think that we have to live up to this expectation of using these strategies to hide our stutter instead of letting it be shown to the world and to people that people who stutter can really do anything, and having a stutter shouldn't block us from doing something that we don't want to do. So like finding these like friend teen groups is like something so helpful just because we really just like talk. It's like not focusing mainly on strategies and those like tools speech therapist gives us. It's more just like us talking and being teens, like living our lives like like all of the other teens are, and getting those weird looks at school, ordering food, being my third good grade self, and telling my parents to just order for me, and having people ask me if I'm okay. Like, those are some of the things I have ignored and just told myself, and I've told myself that I'm amazing and I can do anything, and we can all talk and we can all do these amazing things, and telling myself that every single day, just so that if I forgot that, I would be too scared to try out for the show, to try out for literally anything that involves talking, like doing a debate club, doing a show, just talking to friends in general, talking to your principal, asking a question in class. It's like all of those things I would have forgotten if I didn't tell myself every day that I could talk and that I am amazing and can do anything I put my mind to. Like, be like realizing the stress of talking to people now at my age to when I was in kindergarten, those two things have completely changed because my friends tell me that I spoke fine one day. I was like, thank you, but I am speak fine every day. Like, my stutter is something that is called like, this is our and my way of speaking, and it's different from everyone else's, and but everyone still stutters. Like everyone's nervous during a presentation, so some people are gonna fumble a word and then they'll call it stuttering, and so like everyone does stutter, and that's something that I also have to remind myself, like, even though my stutter is more out there, everyone still does it. It's just something different that everyone goes through. So knowing that I'm human, I can do anything, that I can put my mind to anything, and telling myself that and not forgetting that is something that has gotten me to where I am today. That I feel like not doing that, I would have been still in speech therapy, and my speech therapist not knowing anything about stuttering, telling me to strategies, eat things, and doing everything else. Speech therapists who don't take the time to learn about stuttering say is something that I want to try and do to help make sure that these SOPs and these people who want to help kids know that stuttering is also there, and stuttering is also something that it's more the kid's choice, and it's not, and like the opinion matters, yes, because the people that learned, but we have to be aware that if one day we don't want to do a strategy, or one day we don't want to talk in class, that's our choice, and no one should really tell us what to do because it's our speech, so we have to make our choices.
I got to jump in here and say, it seems to me like we've got the next generation of leaders in the stuttering community.
Yeah.
God, you are excellent. Sorry for interrupting. Josette, it's all yours, but wow.
No, it's okay. Awesome job, Ava. I think that like that all of us can agree that that the like words from these three teens have been like very empowering and very informative for us all to take something away from. And so our next speaker it is going to be Reuben.
Hi, hi everyone. My name is Reuben Schuff. I'm gonna give the real quick version of this. For those of you who don't know me, I'm in my late 30s. I work as aeronautical engineer in Los Angeles, California, and I've been involved in the stuttering community since about 2008. What I want to say today is what I would say to my 13-year-old self, and what I would want to share with my parents when I was about that age. I would say to myself, it's okay to stutter. It really is okay. Don't try to hide it. Don't avoid situations or sounds. Try to keep my eyes open. Try to understand the paradox of stuttering. Let stuttering be normal and not taboo. I would say to my 13-year-old self, follow your dreams. You're gonna make it. And lastly, I would say communication is supposed to be fun. I would say to my parents, stuttering is not your fault. It's not your job to try to fix stuttering. Stuttering isn't going to go away. And stuttering isn't bad. Fluency isn't good. Not all speech therapy is equal. And communication is supposed to be fun. Thank you for the time to talk.
uh, um, uh, thank you, Reuben. And our last panelist is Jeanette.
Hi, I just want to first say thank you, and it's an honor to actually speak on this panel. The speakers that went before me, I mean, brilliant teens, and Reuben, you really just said it all. My name is Jeanette Gordon. I'm the mother of Xavier Gordon, and Xavier Gordon is 9 years old. He is a Boy Scout. He is an engineer. He is outgoing. He loves the outside. He plays with his best friends every single day, Sam and Eddie, outside, exploring, creating. He's brave. He's inquisitive. He's very talkative. And he's smart and he's kind-hearted. And Lee asked me to talk today because he's also a person that stutters. Our stuttering journey started when he was 4 years old. And 3 years later, we found friends. We went to our first friends convention. And the way that we found it was by a coworker who had a poster up on the wall with all famous people who stuttered. And that poster was there for years. I taught at the school. I'm a teacher and I taught at the school for years. And I walked past it every day. And then the day that, following my son finding out that he stuttered, I saw the poster. And then the conversation started with Jean. She had an older son. She was farther along in the journey, but she set me on my path of finding the right resources, the sense of community, friends, an amazing speech therapist who is also a person who stutters. And I couldn't be more thankful for that poster being on the wall, because it really was the gateway into finding the support that we needed. And I'm here as some advice to tell you is to other parents. We talk about our kids, being vocal and talking about their stutter. We as parents should advertise, right? Wear our swag, our friend swag, put posters on the wall, talk to colleagues. I'm a teacher, so I try to educate my students about what stuttering is, because you never know who's in the room that feels lonely, never met another person who stutters, and this will be their moment to open that door for them to help others who are in similar places. Because at the beginning of all this thing, I was scared, I was insecure. Like Reuben said, I felt some sort of responsibility for his stutter. And now, years later, I feel very different. So I'm gonna tell you a quick story. I know we're behind, but hold on one second. Okay, so we were at about 4 different conferences, but last year, at this almost exact same time last year, before everything closed down, we were in a circle, a parent group, and there's a young man's, his name is Conrad, yeah? I don't know if they're here tonight, but his parents were in the circle. Connor, not Conrad, I'm sorry, Connor. And his parents were in the circle, and they were talking about, what they did to advocate for their child. And they had a day at his school where they talked about stuttering, and they put up banners, and they had, buttons, and, they had the whole thing, and Connor spoke about stuttering. And I was just sitting there thinking, oh man, we are so far from this moment. But it gave me hope that someday Xavier would be able to do that, to be able to stand in front of his class and his classmates and talk about it. But I was like, at that moment, I was like, oh no, we're very at the start of this journey, right? Now we're gonna fast forward to this year, literally just a couple of weeks ago, not even, what is it? I lose track of time in this whole pandemic, but the day after the inauguration, Xavier's teacher decided to do a lesson, and it began with a simple, flyer about Joe Biden and his stutter, and it was in this article, and that started the day, and the conversation started, and this amazing teacher began a day of talking about stuttering. She actually showed the film that I gave her in the beginning of the year from the Stuttering Foundation with kids who were speaking about their stutter. That was part of the lesson plan. She opened up the floor to the kids to talk about, well, what struggles do you have, right? What struggles are you dealing with? And if you're shy, you don't need to open up. You don't need to share. But my son thought in that moment, well, I'm not shy, so I'm going to tell my class I stutter. So, okay, sorry. These are not sad tears. These are tears of pride, because I'm so proud of that moment. We got our button moment. In that moment, we got the button, right? Zay said to his class, he was brave, and he said, I stutter. And all of you here know that powerful moment, right? We all know that. So to close, I just want to say, my younger self, I looked to Xavier's future and I was scared and I was afraid. I didn't know what it looked like. And now today, I'm so excited. We, my family, my husband, we are so excited and optimistic about his future. So thank you to friends. Thank you for all of you for your voices and for making a difference in our lives.
And thank you so much for speaking with us today, and for telling us that story. So I think that as we wrap up our panel, I would like to encourage everyone to ask any questions to the panelists on our Slack channels, and I think that we should also give everyone who's on our panel another round of applause.